G'day, this is Scott Payne and welcome to another video. In this video we'll be discussing stencils in ArtRage 4 and up. In this example I'll just be running over some of the ways. I won't be covering everything. There's numerous ways of using stencils, but hopefully this will be a good enough rundown and give you some ideas how to use stencils in your work and what they're about. So let's start. And you can see on the left hand side a little icon stencils. If you click on that, you've probably already been in there and had a look. You've got lots of default stencils in there to choose from, which are quite handy. Various shapes. I use textures a fair bit in some of my work. I will just use this guy as an example how I might use a stencil from a layer rather than the pre-made ones in here. If I want to paint on another layer and not worry about painting outside his silhouette, or if I want to do for some reason a background on top of him, stencils is a good way to go. If I was just painting on the layer that he's on, you can just click on that little padlock and you can lock transparency, and I can keep painting basically on top and it's not going to go off his silhouette. The paint is constrained to his silhouette, his shape. But I want to paint on a layer on top and have the same restriction where I'm not going to have to worry about going around and raising everything all the time. So in that way, just click on that little square in the bottom right, use stencil from layer contents, and then we have our stencil. And as you can see, it's basically the silhouette of our blueberry guy. So if I add a layer on top and keep that stencil active, I can use that to paint with inside that red area. The red itself, the paint won't show through. It's like a mask. So if you're familiar with Photoshop, they have a masking tool in Photoshop. This is probably fairly close to that. So we can, for an example, if I want to give this guy a little bit of a highlight, I can run it just on the edge there of that stencil, and it's not going to go through, but it's going to be right on the edge where that light might catch. And I can go back and erase. Let's quickly hide that. Hide stencil, so you can right click on your stencil and hide it, and there it is. And you can play with layers, and that's a fairly quick way rather than trying to do it by hand, because you can always bring that stencil back. So if you click on the stencil tab, go to active, click on the eye, and you can bring that stencil back. The other thing with if you come up with an interesting shape or a texture and you want to save that as a stencil, you've created your stencil and you want to keep it for later on, there might be another project or another work of art you want to use that stencil on, you just click on that little tab underneath the eye, add to collection, give it a name, and then click on which category of stencil you think it best suits. So if it's a texture, you can just click on texture and then give it a name and then OK, and then that will save it in there, so you can always go back and use it at a later time. So I'm not going to bother with this guy. And the controls of the stencil, you can hold the control, maybe it's command on a Mac, I'm not sure, but on the PC it's control, and it brings up a little magnify icon, and you can just click and drag and you can change the size of your stencil. So if I wanted a big shadow behind him on a wall or something, I could enlarge this and then move it and then colour inside, and that could be a shadow. And the Alt key, hold the Alt key down and you can rotate it, and you can also move it around by just right click drag. And you can also reset the pin. You can actually move that pin around too, so if you want to rotate around the pin, it might be on an edge of another object, you can move the pin say up to here. So if I want it to actually rotate from there, it'll rotate from the top there. And remove the stencil if you don't want it anymore, just click remove. You can also invert the stencil, so just bring the stencil back and right click invert stencil. So in this way, if we wanted to paint on the same layer or another layer, we can be painting on the background all around our blueberry guy rather than on top of the blueberry guy. So now the selection is in fact masking around the blueberry fella. So we hide the stencil, we can see that's on top, but it's actually not interfering with the blueberry shape. Okay, another quick example here. The little laughing guy. Say we wanted to change the line work color, because in some artwork you'll notice it's the color of the line work might be black. You can actually change it to any color you want by using the stencil tool. So we'll do the same thing. Create a stencil from the line work. There it is there. And if I want to, I can actually paint over that. So if we want to maybe use that backlight, we can paint over our line work. Better off creating a layer on top. Create a new layer, pick our color, and paint over our line work. And we could maybe pick a purple. We have a line work. I won't keep going, I'll just show you. There we go. So that's stencils. A few different ways of using them. I hope that's some help to you guys that haven't used stencils or not sure how to use stencils. Thanks for watching.